Let's look at the files for this demonstration. The first document is the PDF form that's going to let you create quiz questions offline and then upload them to the question library. This document essentially has some instructions. It reminds you how to do this. Here is the collected questions that we're going to use in our demonstration, and you can also start from scratch and use these same questions. Here is an example of creating a multiple choice question. These are the same answers that we're using: true, false, multiple select, and so forth. When we preview the CSV, remember that's a comma-separated values file. This preview reminds us that the commas separate, they delineate the content. So we see columns like in a spreadsheet. So somehow all of those questions end up looking like this. Well, it's even easier if you look at it in a text editor. So here we see the actual commas instead of the columns of information. Notice that each question is defined by an empty line. All right, are we ready? We need to log in and upload this file to begin our demo. When I make this quiz, I'm going to make this quiz and some mistakes at the same time, because I know that if I stepped through this process without making errors, you'd be frustrated in the long run because, you didn't click the right little button or the next little thing. So I want to make some mistakes so then we can also go back and see how to fix them. Okay? Here we go. I am already logged in as instructor. Remember, I'm advocating that you use your new student account in a different web browser. So I'm in Firefox. Firefox is the more compatible browser for D2L, whether you're on Windows or Mac. So my second browser is going to be a less compatible one. In the case I'm on a Macintosh, it could be Chrome, it could be Safari, and in Windows, your secondary browser would be Internet Explorer or Chrome. My student identity, you can see I have a different picture in my settings, and obviously my list of courses is different. So that we're going way down here to my new course in just a minute. Okay, as the instructor, remember I might have more than one role. So up at the top, I've moved some of the classes that I don't need to access immediately, changing my role to prior term in the class list. And if I ever need to see them, I select prior term and apply. And here are those classes. But again, primarily I'm going to be at instructor and looking at these courses. So let's go on into this demo course. And now I'm looking at this as the instructor. Remember, as instructor, I have the instructor widget with links to everything. Let me go see how this looks as a student. When I go into my new course, I don't have the instructor widget up at the top. And notice my settings here shows me. It doesn't show my instructor, it shows the user. So I'm thinking, as an instructor, I want to take that My Settings widget off the home page to give more real estate to the things that are important about the class. All right, toggling back now to the instructor view. Here we go. If I wanted to change my role in the past, remember I'd be going student, change role. But now, see, I still see this instructor widget. If I go to grades, this is the way it looks to me. When I'm kind of pretending to be a student, let's go see what it really looks like to students. Go to grades. So it looks like the grades view seems pretty much the same. Here I am as a student. Here I am as a teacher. Okay. But in order to change back to being an instructor, I have to go back to home, have to go back to my role, click change role. So again, several more steps if you're using the role switch widget to be a student, as opposed to simply toggling between two active web browsers. Okay, so if we wanted to clean up our home page, we can easily take role switch, because I'm going to be using, I can add this again anytime I want, but let's clean it up. My settings shows the person who's logged in. All right, so now when I go back to course home, I've cleaned up the content for me, and it really hasn't changed for students. Now remember, your course may or may not include quizzes in the navigation bar. If they're not in the navigation bar, use your instructor only widget to access quizzes. Instructors always see content or quizzes or assignments, and students only see what is available, what is active. So here we're looking at the course quiz list, and we see that there are 2 that are inactive. Let's go look as a student. And here we're going to click on quizzes, and there are no active quizzes, no currently available quizzes. So that's as I would suspect. As an instructor, what we want to do is import our CSV file to our question library. Question library isn't on our navigation bar, but it's part of the whole quiz feature. So over on the left, you'll find question library. And you see that there's a folder here already. I'm going to import, right? A desire to learn text format file, that's that CSV. Now notice it's hidden here, but if you want to look at their example CSV, this is the only place you find this link. So you can download theirs as well. I'm going to browse to my desktop, to my folder, to my CSV file, and say save. It's happy with the information I imported. Boy, I wish I had done a folder instead of just having loose questions. A folder is really a section in D2L parlance. So let's make this our practice. Practice quiz. And obviously I can write more information. I'll save it. Now I have a practice quiz folder. What I need to do is move all of my questions into that folder. I'm going to use the checkbox feature, and then I'm going to click the Move button. And it says, where do you want those? I want them in practice quiz. Well, they're no longer listed here. Click once on practice quiz, and there are my questions. So I've now imported a quick sample of questions, and let's go edit a question. So again, I'm going to suggest you use the pencil tool. And now I'm looking at a question, and I need to mark what is the best answer. I'm thinking, yeah. And remember, you could give partial points to some of these. And again, you can edit the question. Now, one of the things we also mentioned was could take this list of possible responses and randomize them. So I'm going to mark that checkbox, and at the top of the page, I'm going to say save. So again, you could go through each of these questions. Now, true or false, again, title is what we see on the list. It would be much better to see a reference to the question. Now, what I also want to comment on is you have student learning outcomes, and I'm going to advocate that you use title because only instructors see title, and you add a reference to your student learning outcome. You know, you're going to have to figure out how to list them since they are listed usually as bullet points, but let me say 2.4 or something. Whatever my personal list is how I'm going to reference this question relates to that student learning outcome. And now again, I'll say save. So at least in my question library, I'm now seeing much better information. Not the kind of question it was, but the actual title of the actual question itself, and a reference to the student learning outcome. So again, I would continue going down this list, making those changes. So when you're developing your question library, you want to have folders for each chapter or each module as a organizing feature. You want to be able to choose questions from a folder. It'll just make life a little bit easier. So you could, again, reference chapter. And prepare this ahead of time. All right, whatever is appropriate. Sometimes when you actually import a question pool from a publisher, they also will all be organized by chapter, so that's helpful. But again, chapter 2 is not as helpful as identifying the topic that's discussed in chapter 2. Just kind of repeats that theme throughout your work. Okay, so now we've got to make a quiz. Let's go see how we do that. We can hit this Back to Quizzes button or click Quizzes on the navigation bar. We want to make a new quiz. So now we're looking at all of the layers of what we have to answer in order to make a quiz. So this is where having a little cheat sheet for yourself would be helpful. You'd kind of just ripple right through this and not have to think about it because you have a reference. And you don't have to open another window and go see a previous quiz. You can see I've been practicing practice quizzes for some time. Okay, as I go down this list, category is not something I use. Grade item for a practice quiz will not have a grade item. But notice I've already created grade items for all of the quizzes. Again, they should have better names than just week 1, week 2. And once we choose something, we would also then be able to turn on the export to grades. But again, a practice quiz does not really get a grade item. All right, and then another item to watch for is this automatic grade. Be sure and expand and look at the other options in each of these tab areas. All right, so I've got practice quiz. It's not going to be graded. Let's go on to restrictions. I'm going to need this quiz to be active. So I know that a practice quiz should be active right away. So I'm just going to change that right now. Dates, again, I'm not going to bother with start dates. I'm going to just change it to be active and inactive. And I'm not going to set any time limit. But again, if you want the students to have the exact experience you're going to give them, you would give them a set of practice questions and you would set a time limit that kind of tells them that they've got 3 minutes to do 10 questions so that they get that timing message. All right, so again, attempts, I'm going to say 3. They won't need 3. And I'm not going to do objectives, submission views on a practice quiz. The default view we're going to leave, but let's talk about this additional view. So show responses and answers. And what are the date restrictions? So again, after the quiz window closes is when you would want to be able to show all of the answers. You would again choose from the view details. You want to say yes. I want to show details. Show questions with user responses and show answers. And then you would save the view. So now notice you have a default view and you should have show answers and questions. Okay, so we haven't even made our quiz questions yet. Let's go to that setup. Add question. Click on import. What is the source? It is from the existing collection. Remember, we've uploaded that file, but we could start it from scratch. Too much work. Let's go from the existing file. We want it to come from the question library. That's where we loaded our CSV. And which section are we going to add? Again, because I organize things in folders in my question library, it's easy to find on this list. I'm going to select everything that's in my question library practice quiz folder. But remember, I'm advocating that a quiz be in 2 parts if you have short answer and long answer. So let's take out those 2 questions and say save. So really what I want to do is go question A, practice quiz, part A. And now I want to make a new part B following those same steps. Oh, I didn't make a folder. Let me make a folder. And let me move my 2 questions into my folder. All right, so now I have the quiz that can be auto-graded and the quiz that needs to be manually graded. All right. Wait a minute. Those are just two parts of the same quiz. I think I need two quizzes, not two subparts. Woo! All right, let's go back and look. Sure enough, what's happening here is that I still have one quiz and two parts. Got a lot of fixing to do here. Practice quiz. So just reminding myself what this is. Auto-graded Part A. So now I need a new quiz, Part B. Again, this is also not going to be graded. What I really want to do is get these other questions in here. Where am I going to find them? It's my last two. All right, so let's go back and see. Sure enough, Part B has my short answer and long answer question. I would say submission view. Need to add a new view. And save the view. You know what? On the stuff I have to grade, I only want to look at this one time. They get one chance at that. All right. Now, I have some cleanup to do, right? Because in practice quiz auto-graded A, I have too many questions. This Part B now needs to be removed from here. So let's go Add, Edit. Take this and hit Delete. Back to quizzes. So now I have only the objective questions that can be automatically graded. That's good, I'm happy. And I want this to be clear both to me and to students. So we say go back. All right, so now we have those questions. Now notice this is inactive. I didn't go through the sequential steps through all of those tabs, but there is a quick way to make a quiz active. I'm going to hit the checkbox and click the double pencil and make it active. Well, before I do that, let's go see what the student view looks like. All right, remember I was here, I go to quizzes, and sure enough, I only see the active quiz, which right now is the auto-graded one. Let's go ahead and hit the Save button. Go back. We don't see inactive as a warning flag. And for the student, when I refresh and look at the quiz page again, now I see both parts. So look at how fast it was to use two browsers to see what the view is for the student, what the view is for the instructor. I'm able to check that real quick.